The sun had hardly peeked over the rooftops when Maya slipped out of bed and tiptoed across the creaky wooden floor of their tiny apartment. In the soft morning light, she could see her mother, Rosa, resting on the old sofa bed, her face pale, but peaceful. Maya paused for a moment, her small heart swelling with both love and worry. She knew Rosa had been in pain for weeks, and the bills for her medicine kept growing higher than the money they had. Maya quietly packed a plastic bucket with soapy water and a rag. She chose her favorite blue cloth, worn at the edges but still soft and absorbent. As she tied her hair back with a faded ribbon, she whispered a prayer under her breath, asking, "For just $5. $5, she thought, and her mother might sleep without pain tonight. $5 and the heavy cloud over their home might lift, even just a little." Outside, the street was quiet except for a distant rumble of buses and the soft hum of early traffic. Maya pulled on her shoes, a size too big, and held her mother's old baseball cap between her small palms. She slipped it on her head, feeling its brim shield her eyes from the weak dawn light. Then she set off down the narrow staircase, pausing, only to offer a silent blessing for her mother's health. By the time she reached the corner where cars waited at the first red light, the city was waking up. Shop shutters rattled as they opened. A street vendor lit his grill, and the smell of warm bread drifted through the air. Maya positioned herself beside the traffic light, bucket in hand, cloth folded neatly over her arm. Her chest rose and fell with each quick breath, but her eyes were steady. She had practiced her greeting dozens of times. "Good morning, sir. Would you like your window cleaned?" A beat-up sedan rolled up, its driver glancing down the street. Maya raised her voice, just enough to be heard. "Please, sir, $5 to save my mom's life." She didn't really expect him to say yes, but those words always felt true in her heart. She began scrubbing the windshield in gentle circles, careful not to miss a spot. The driver watched her for a moment before lifting his hand and pressing a single coin into her tiny palm. "I'm sorry," he muttered. "I wish I had more." Then he drove off, leaving Maya with a single quarter that clinked softly in her hand. She counted the coins tucked inside her palm, 1 quarter. She sighed and tucked it into her pocket. Not enough, but she straightened her shoulders and looked up at the next car approaching. A sleek SUV pulled up, its engine purring like a contented cat. The driver glanced over and Maya called out, "Good morning, ma'am. Only $1 to help my mom." She scrubbed at the glass, wiping away streaks of dust and grime. The driver paused, then tossed a single dollar bill into Maya's bucket. Maya's eyes lit up for a moment before she swallowed a lump in her throat. 4 more to go. As the light changed, the SUV rolled forward, and Maya turned back to her bucket. She whispered, "Thank you," to the empty street, then looked at the coins and the single dollar. Her heart swelled with hope, but the weight of $4 still pressed down on her young shoulders. She spent the next half hour leaning from car to car, scrubbing each window with care. Some drivers rolled their windows up tight, refusing to look at her pleading eyes. Others tossed a coin or two and offered a quick nod. Maya counted carefully each time, tallying her savings on a small piece of paper she kept in her pocket. By mid-morning, she had collected $2.75. Maya wiped her brow with the back of her hand, even though she was not yet hot. She felt hunger pangs in her stomach, but she knew that buying food would only take her closer to darkness. Instead, she focused on her goal. She pictured her mother's face, the way Rosa's lips curved into a gentle smile when she thought no one was looking. Maya remembered how her mother read her favorite stories to her, her voice trembling with emotion, even when pain made her hands shake. As the sun climbed higher, Maya paused her work and sat on the curb. She spread her coins and bills on the sidewalk. 2 $1 bills, 3 quarters, and a handful of nickels. She counted them out loud, careful not to lose track. $2.75. She sighed, pressing both hands flat on the rough concrete. Please, she whispered. Just $5. A city bus rumbled to a stop in front of her. Its windows tinted dark so she could not see inside. She rose quickly and approached, rag at the ready. The driver, a tall man with a friendly face, looked down at her. Need some help, little one? He asked, his voice gentle. Maya nodded, blinking back tears. My mom is sick. I need $5 for her medicine. She held out the rag and stepped back so he could see her price. The driver hesitated. Then he reached into his pocket and handed her 2 singles. Here, he said softly. I hope that helps a bit. Maya pressed her hands together in thanks, her voice choking. $4.75. Only 25 cents left. She could almost taste success. She hurried back to the corner, setting up her bucket once more. Cars whizzed by, but she paid no mind to the noise. Her eyes were fixed on her goal. She prayed again, louder this time. Please let me find one last quarter. Minutes felt like hours. Maya scrubbed a car's window, then another. Each time the driver tossed only a few coins, she gently added them to her bucket. Sometimes she wished she could run after the moving cars, begging them to look back. But she knew her place had to stay here, at the red light. Finally, a small car rolled up, and Maya took a deep breath. She pressed her cloth against the glass and called out, Please, sir, this is the last bit I need, just a quarter more. Please, $5 for my mom's medicine. The driver looked down and met her gaze. He saw the earnest hope shining in her wide brown eyes and the slight tremble of her voice. He reached into his wallet and pulled out a shining quarter, handing it to Maya. Her heart leaped. She clutched the coin and counted it with her eyes. 1 quarter, the exact amount. Her bucket now held a full $5. Tears sprung to her eyes, but she blinked them back and smiled. Maya bowed her head and whispered a prayer of thanks so soft that only she could hear it. Feeling the weight of her bucket and the lightness of her heart, she carefully counted the $5 one more time. Then, with a small whistle of hope, she picked up her rag and cleaned the windshield one last time, polishing it until it sparkled. When the light turned green, she walked away from the corner, her heart pounding with joy and relief. She cradled the money close to her chest as she made her way home. The city now alive with its usual bustle. Everything seemed brighter. Back at the apartment, Rosa was waking up, her hand pressed to her chest as she tried to sit up. When she saw Maya standing in the doorway, her eyes widened. In Maya's small hands was the crisp $5 bill. Maya knelt beside her mother and placed the bill in Rosa's hand. For your medicine, Mama, she said. Her voice trembled with pride and love. Rosa's eyes filled with tears as she hugged Maya tight. The soft embrace warmed both their hearts and filled the room with a new kind of light. Maya had done it. She had answered her own prayer and eased her mother's suffering, all with a little faith, hard work, and the kindness of strangers. That day, Maya learned that courage and hope could bring miracles, even in the smallest of lives. And as she sat by Rosa's side, helping her count her blessings, she knew that no matter how dark the world might seem, a single quarter could change everything. Maya woke early the next morning, the sky still soft with pale light. She slipped on her shoes and grabbed her bucket, careful not to wake her mother. The air felt cooler today, and she shivered as she stepped onto the empty street. But the memory of yesterday's success warmed her heart. She felt proud of herself for raising the $5, yet she knew her work was not done. Rosa still needed more medicine in the days ahead. and Maya could not let her mother suffer. She made her way to the same busy corner. Cars slowed at the red light, and Maya set down her bucket of soapy water, laying her rag across the rim. She folded her hands for a moment and prayed again. Please let today bring more kindness. Then she straightened and called out to the first driver, her voice gentle but steady. Good morning, sir. Would you like your window cleaned? The man glanced at her with surprise. Maya smiled at him, and he nodded once. She dipped her rag into the bucket and began to scrub the windshield in slow, careful circles. The soap suds spread over the glass, and she pressed lightly to clean every corner. When she finished, she wiped away the foam and held out her hand. The driver looked her in the eyes, saw the small scars from scrapes on her palms, and dropped 2 quarters into Maya's hand. Thank you, he said quietly, before pulling away. Maya bowed her head in thanks and counted the coins. 50 cents. She tucked them into her pocket and moved to the next car. As she cleaned more windows, her fingers grew cold, but she didn't mind. Each coin brought her closer to her goal of helping her mother. By mid-morning, she had saved $2.30. She paused to wipe the sweat on her forehead, even though it was cool, and sipped water from a small bottle her mother had filled for her before sunrise. A silver sedan rolled up next. Maya dipped her rag and scrubbed it at the glass until it shone. When she asked for payment, the driver smiled and pressed a $1 bill into her hand. Keep up the good work, he told her. The kind words made her chest swell with warmth. Now she had $3.30. Still, with every passing hour, Maya felt new challenges. A sharp wind blew dust onto the windshield she had just cleaned, forcing her to scrub twice as hard. A driver honked at her for leaning into his car, or drove off too quickly, splashing muddy water at her shoes. Each setback hurt, but Maya refused to give up. She pictured her mother's pale face and the way Rosa's eyes lit up whenever Maya told her a story. Those memories gave her strength. Around noon, a small group of students from the local school gathered on the sidewalk near her. They watched Maya work, whispering among themselves. For a moment, she felt shy. She paused and stood straight, tucking stray hair behind her ear. One of the students, a girl with bright braids, walked over and handed Maya a granola bar. You look hungry, she said softly. I packed 2 here, you can have one. Maya's eyes filled with gratitude. She offered to pay, but the girl shook her head. It's okay. Good luck with your work. Maya unwrapped the bar, and as she ate, she felt both fuller and more hopeful. Even when the world seemed against her, small kindnesses found their way to her. She waved to the students, who cheered for her before heading back to class. Strength renewed, Maya returned to her window washing. Afternoon traffic grew heavier, and the sun felt stronger on her back. She scrubbed each window with care, speaking her familiar plea. Please, $5 for my mom's medicine. Some drivers ignored her, but others paused, rolled down the window, and offered a few coins. A gentle man in a delivery van dropped 50 cents in her bucket and left her a can of cold soda from his cooler as a gift. She accepted it gratefully, taking a long sip before tucking it aside for later. Still, by late afternoon, Maya's savings barely reached $4. She sat on the curb for a moment, her bucket beside her, and looked at the coins that clinked softly when she rocked back and forth. $4. She breathed in deeply, trying to calm the fear that rose inside her. What if she never reached the full 5? What if her mother's pain returned even stronger? Tears blurred her vision, but she blinked them away. Then she whispered to herself, keep going. You can do this. She stood up, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, and inspected her rag. It was damp and worn, but it still worked. She squeezed it, wringing out the excess water and dipped it again. The next car slowed at the light, and Maya approached with determination. "Good afternoon, ma'am," she began, scrubbing the glass. "Just a little more to help my mom." The driver, a young woman with kind eyes, watched Maya's careful strokes. When Maya finished, the woman opened her purse and removed a single silver quarter. She handed it to Maya, saying, "You're so brave. Here's the last bit you need." A surge of joy rushed through Maya. She counted the money once more. $5 exactly. Her heart pounded, and for a moment she felt as though she would burst with happiness. She bowed deeply, the quarter still warm in her hand, and whispered, "Thank you. Thank you so much." The traffic light changed, and the car drove on. Maya held the quarter close and closed her eyes, whispering a quick prayer of gratitude before turning her attention back to her bucket. She rinsed her rag and watched as the suds swirled away, then gently laid the cloth across the rim. Her hands trembled with excitement and relief. She had done it again. Not just once, but a second time she had raised $5 to save her mother. Stronger now with this new success, Maya felt a shift inside her. She saw the world not as a harsh place, but as a field of small, shining moments where strangers could become friends with a simple act of kindness. As the sun began to dip low in the sky, Maya cleaned her final windows of the day. She no longer cared about the cold, the fatigue, or the dust. She cared about her mother's smile, the warmth in Rosa's eyes, and the knowledge that her hard work had made a difference. She imagined helping her mother take her medicine and watching her rest peacefully for the first time in days. When the light turned red for the last time, Maya closed her bucket and leaned against the traffic light pole. She breathed in deeply, enjoying the cool breeze that danced through the street. Shopkeepers were closing their doors, and the evening sky glowed in orange and pink. The city seemed to hold its breath with her, celebrating her small victory. She spotted two young men loading supplies into their truck nearby. One of them gave her a thumbs up as he passed. Maya waved back, her face bright with pride. She counted her coins one more time to make sure they still added to $5. They did. Her hands felt steady now, no longer shaking from tension. At last, Maya turned away from the corner and walked home, the bucket swinging at her side. The sidewalk felt smoother under her feet now, each step lighter than the last. She hummed a little tune, something cheerful she remembered her mother singing. The warm glow of the setting sun followed her, as if guiding her home. When she reached the apartment building, she climbed the stairs 2 at a time. At the doorway, she found Rosa sitting up, a gentle smile on her face despite the shadows under her eyes. Maya knelt down and held out the $5. "For your medicine, Mama," she said, her voice calm and proud. Rosa's smile grew wide as she took the money. Her hands closed around Maya's small ones, and she hugged her daughter close. "You are my brave girl," Rosa whispered. "Thank you." Maya hugged her mother back, feeling the soft fabric of her worn dress and smelling the faint scent of lavender on her skin. In that moment, all the hardship melted away, leaving only love. They sat together on the sofa bed, counting the money and planning their next steps. They knew the medicine would help, but they also knew that life would still hold challenges. Yet with each other and with the kindness they had found in strangers, they felt ready to face whatever came next. And so, as the evening shadows stretched across their small living room, Maya and Rosa sat hand in hand, their hearts light and full of hope. They had shared a day of hard work and gentle miracles, and they knew that tomorrow would bring new roads to walk. But for now, they simply held on to each other, and the promise that kindness, no matter how small, could shine like a beacon in the darkest times. Maya woke before sunrise, her small body stiff with excitement. Today was different. Yesterday, she had raised $5 twice to help her mother. But today, she carried a new hope in her heart. She believed something good would come of it. She dressed quietly, slipped into her shoes, and grabbed her bucket, careful not to wake Rosa. With one last look at her mother's sleeping form, Maya whispered, "I will make today special." She hurried down the stairs and set off toward the busy intersection where she worked each day. The city was coming alive. The smell of fresh bread, the rattle of shop shutters, the distant honk of buses. Maya set her bucket at her feet and folded her rag neatly over its edge. She placed her worn cap on her head, pulled it low, and folded her hands for a moment of prayer. Then she straightened and faced the oncoming cars. Moments later, a dark blue sedan eased up to the red light. Maya stepped forward, dipped her rag into the soapy water, and began to scrub. As she worked, she sensed someone different watching her. She looked up and saw a tall man standing by the open driver's window. His suit was expensive, his face lined with both kindness and loneliness. Maya's heart fluttered. This was the man from yesterday, the CEO, who had given her first $5. When she finished cleaning his windshield, she held out her hand and said, "Good morning, sir. $5 for my mom." He smiled gently, reached into his pocket, and handed her another crisp bill. But this time, he did not drive away. He rolled down his window a little more and said, "You have done well these past days. Would you like to come with me for a moment?" Maya's eyes widened. She looked at her bucket, the rag, then back at him. She wanted to say yes, but she worried. What if her mother needed her? What if something bad happened? The man must have seen her hesitation, because he added, "Bring your mother. I want to help both of you." Her chest tightened with hope and fear. She nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." He smiled and opened the passenger door. Maya climbed in, bucket in hand. The leather felt soft beneath her fingers. The air smelled faintly of leather and cologne. As the car pulled away, Maya peered out the window, the city blurring around her. Across town, Jonathan Caldwell guided his car down quiet streets until they reached a tall building with gleaming glass walls. It was his headquarters, a place of power and success, but one that had felt empty since his wife died. He parked and led Maya inside, then on an elevator that rose above the city lights. Maya's eyes were wide with wonder. Every floor they passed surprised her: shiny floors, bright lights, people moving quickly with purpose. When the elevator doors opened, Jonathan guided her through a hallway lined with awards and photographs of his company's achievements. Then they entered a large office. A big desk sat in the center, and behind it, Jonathan motioned to a soft chair. "Have a seat," he said. Maya lowered herself into the chair and clutched her bucket of supplies in her lap. Jonathan sat behind the desk, folded his hands, and looked at her kindly. "I'm glad you came," he said. "I have seen how hard you work. I want to help you and your mother beyond just those $5. Maya's heart pounded. She shifted her bucket and said softly, "Thank you, sir. I only want to help my mother feel better." Jonathan nodded and leaned forward. "Tell me more about her and what she needs." Maya told him about Rosa's illness, how she needed medicine, how it hurt her when she moved, how her face turned white with pain. She spoke in simple words, but each sentence carried the weight of love and worry. Jonathan listened, his eyes soft. When she finished, he stood and walked to a cabinet. He opened it and pulled out a small envelope. Inside was a card that read, "Prescription coverage and family assistance." He laid it on the desk in front of Maya. "This will cover her medicine for 6 months," he explained. "And more, if she needs it. I work with a charity that helps families like yours. Maya's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Jonathan and whispered, "Really?" Jonathan nodded. "Yes, and I would like to meet your mother." Maya jumped up and ran toward the desk, then stopped. She realized she did not know how to invite him into her home. But she found the words. "My mom lives in a small apartment on Pine Street. Can you come with me?" Jonathan smiled. "Of course." Moments later, they were back in his car, weaving through traffic until they reached the neighborhood where Maya lived. The streets here were narrower, the buildings older, and the signs of wear showed in peeling paint and cracked sidewalks. Maya held Jonathan's hand as they walked up the steps to her apartment. Inside, the room was small and simple. A faded curtain covered the window. A small radio sat on a table, and a few family photos hung on the wall. In the corner, Rosa sat on the sofa bed, her eyes closed. She looked fragile but hopeful. Maya called, "Mana, someone is here to see you." Rosa opened her eyes and sat up slowly. When she saw Jonathan, she frowned with surprise. Then her eyes widened and tears fell. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice soft. Jonathan cleared his throat and stepped forward. "Hello, Mrs. Rivera. My name is Jonathan Caldwell. Maya has told me about you and your sickness. I work with a charity that will help with your medicines." He held out a folder of papers. "These will cover your prescription costs. And if you ever need anything else, a ride, groceries, anything, you can call me." Rosa stared at the folder. Then she bowed her head and sobbed. Maya ran to her and hugged her tight, pressing her cheek against her mother's. The two of them wept together. Jonathan stepped back, giving them space, his own eyes moist. After a few moments, Rosa wiped her eyes and looked up at Jonathan. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know how to say enough." Jonathan bent down and hugged Rosa. "You don't have to say anything," he said. "Just rest." Over the next hour, Jonathan stayed with them. He offered them water, sat on the edge of their bed, and listened to their stories. Maya showed him drawings she had made of their favorite times picnics in the park, baking cookies together, and Rosa leaned back, smiling at each memory. When it was time to leave, Jonathan stood and said, "I will check in on you often. And Maya, I want you to go back to school now. No more cleaning windows." Maya's eyes shone with relief. "Really?" "Really," Jonathan confirmed. "You need to be a little girl, not a worker." Maya nodded, her heart full. She grabbed her bucket and rag. Jonathan took them and placed them outside the door. "You don't need these anymore," he told her. "Go play, go learn, be happy." Maya turned back to her mother, tears of joy on her cheeks. "Mama, we can finally rest," she said. Rosa hugged her daughter again. "Yes, my brave girl, we can rest." Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops, Maya and Rosa sat together on their sofa bed. The folder of prescription papers lay on the table beside them, a promise of relief. Maya nestled against her mother's shoulder, feeling safe for the first time in weeks. Outside, the city hummed with life. But inside that small apartment, there was peace. Maya closed her eyes and thought of Jonathan's kindness, how a stranger had become a friend. She imagined him back in his office, perhaps looking at her drawings, or taking a moment to remember her brave smile. And as the room grew dark, Maya whispered a prayer of thanks for the lonely CEO who had found her story, the small bills she had earned, and the promise of health and hope for her mother. In that moment, she felt that miracles were real, and sometimes they arrived in the most unexpected ways. Maya woke the next morning to the soft light filtering through the curtains. She sat up and stretched, feeling the gentle weight of relief in her chest. No aching worry pulled at her heart today. She slipped out of bed quietly so as not to wake her mother. In the kitchen, she found a small note from Rosa. "Rest today, my brave girl, I'm fine." Maya smiled and tucked the note into her pocket. She washed her face and brushed her teeth, then dressed in her school uniform for the first time in weeks. Outside, the air felt fresh and new. Maya carried her backpack, empty of bucket and rag, and walked toward the small school down the street. As she passed the busy intersection where she had worked so hard, she felt a flutter of memory. She remembered the cold mornings, the scrub of the rag, the clink of coins. Today, the corner was just part of the city's rhythm, not her world. She put on her bravest smile and stepped forward. Inside the classroom, Maya greeted her teacher and classmates with shy excitement. She took a seat by the window, where she could see the tree branches sway in the breeze. When the teacher asked her to read aloud, Maya's voice trembled at first, but soon she found her strength. The words flowed, and her classmates looked at her with new respect. Maya felt a quiet joy bloom in her chest. She realized that lessons and laughter were a gift she had forgotten while she worked. At home that afternoon, Rosa was resting, a cup of warm tea at her side. When Maya entered, she ran to her mother and hugged her tightly. "School was good," she whispered. Rosa's eyes filled with happiness. "I knew you would shine," she said. They sat together on the sofa bed, and Rosa patted the space beside her, so Maya could curl up against her side. That evening, there was a gentle knock at the door. Maya peeked through the peephole and saw Jonathan standing there, briefcase in hand. He stepped inside and greeted Rosa with a warm smile. "Good evening," he said. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." Rosa shook her head. "Come in, please." Maya slid off the sofa and stood close by, her heart thumping with gratitude. Jonathan opened his briefcase and pulled out a small box wrapped in soft paper. "I thought you might like this," he said, handing it to Maya. She unwrapped it to find a set of new school books and a bright red backpack. Maya's eyes widened. She ran her fingers over the smooth covers and hugged the backpack to her chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "This is lovely." Then Jonathan faced Rosa. "I also arranged for a nurse to visit every week," he said. "And here are some meal vouchers for fresh fruits and vegetables." He placed an envelope on the table. Rosa's hands trembled as she reached for it. "You have helped us more than words can say," she said. Jonathan nodded. "I'm glad to help. You both deserve peace and health." He stood and smiled at Maya. "Keep going to school, do your best, and remember you're not alone." Maya beamed. "I promise." Jonathan left soon after, but his kindness lingered like a warm light in their home. Over the next weeks, life settled into a gentle routine. Maya woke early, ate breakfast with her mother, and walked to school with the red backpack on her shoulders. At home, the nurse arrived every Monday to check Rosa's health, adjust her medicines, and teach Rosa gentle exercises to ease her pain. Rosa's face grew healthier each day. She had energy to cook simple meals and even to sing softly again while she folded laundry. Maya helped with small chores around the apartment, sweeping the floor, washing dishes, tidying the table. She no longer carried buckets on the street. Instead, she carried hope in her heart. At school, she made new friends who invited her to play during recess. She told them simple stories about her mother's illness and how she cleaned windows. To help, they listened in quiet awe and offered kind words. Maya felt that she belonged. One afternoon, Maya and Rosa walked to the corner where Maya had once stood. Rosa pointed to the spot and said, "You did something amazing here." Maya nodded, her eyes misty. "I had to. You needed help." Rosa hugged her daughter. "You taught me what courage looks like." They stayed for a moment, letting the breeze brush their faces, then turned to walk home hand in hand. Meanwhile, in his office high above the city, Jonathan looked at a framed photograph on his desk. It showed him, Maya, and Rosa smiling together. After their first meeting, he often caught himself thinking of their laughter, their strength. He realized that helping them had changed him too. His lonely office felt warmer now. He decided to start a small foundation at his company, dedicated to supporting families like the Rivera's people whose struggle was unseen until someone paused to look. Soon, Jonathan's foundation began to take shape. He invited Rosa to speak at a company gathering about her journey, how kindness and faith had pulled her through. She stood before a sea of employees and shared her story with simple words. Many wiped tears from their eyes. They gave donations and offered to volunteer in local communities. Maya sat in the front row, the red backpack at her feet, and watched, her mother speak with pride shining in her eyes. After the gathering, employees surrounded Rosa and Maya with hugs and congratulations. They offered groceries, school supplies, and friendship. Maya felt her world expand beyond her small apartment. She saw that kindness could multiply when shared. Back at home that evening, Rosa and Maya sat at the table, sorting through a pile of books, clothes, and food boxes delivered by volunteers. Maya gasped when she saw a bright blue bicycle with training wheels, tied with a ribbon. "For you," a note read, "so you can ride to school and play." Maya's face lit up. She hugged the bike and then hugged her mother tight. "It's perfect," she said. Rosa smiled through tears. "Yes, my love, you can ride it proudly." Maya spent the next morning practicing in the small courtyard outside the building. With her mother's gentle guidance, she learned to balance, pedal, and steer. When she finally coasted smoothly across the pavement, she laughed out loud and waved to Rosa, who clapped with joy. As weeks turned into months, the Rivera's life changed in small, beautiful ways. Rosa's health improved, so much that she began attending a local support group for people with her illness. There she met others who understood her struggle, and she found comfort in sharing her story. She also started teaching gentle yoga to other members, using the exercises the nurse had taught her. Maya continued to thrive in school. She studied hard and earned good grades. She joined the reading club and read stories to younger children, her voice strong and clear. Each time she spoke, she remembered the first time she scrabbled at car windows, pleading for her mother. Now she spoke with confidence, a leader in her own right. One late afternoon, Maya and Rosa received a call from Jonathan. He invited them to a small gathering at his office to celebrate the foundation's first year. Excitement bubbled inside them. They dressed in their best clothes, Rosa in a flowery dress, Maya in a simple skirt and blouse, and took the bus downtown. When they arrived, Jonathan greeted them with warmth. The office was decorated with photos from the past year. Maya in her school uniform, Rosa teaching yoga, volunteers cleaning windows for other families. Jonathan led them to a small stage where he spoke to the gathered crowd. "Today we honor Maya and Rosa Rivera," he said. "They remind us why we do this work. Their courage, hope, and love have inspired an entire company to reach out. Maya, you are a shining example of compassion. Rosa, your strength and grace teach us all." Maya and Rosa stepped forward, holding hands. Applause filled the room. Maya looked at the faces around her, employees, volunteers, even the nurse who had visited her home. She felt a warm glow. She raised her hand to wave and caught sight of Jonathan, who smiled and gave her a thumbs up. After the ceremony, people mingled, shared stories, and took photos. Jonathan pulled Rosa aside and whispered, "You too have changed more lives than you know." Rosa nodded, tears in her eyes. "And you changed ours." They hugged, and Jonathan patted Maya's head. "Keep shining," he said. As they left the office that evening, Maya and Rosa walked side by side under the city lights. Maya hopped onto her blue bicycle and balanced it expertly. Rosa walked beside her, guiding the way. The streets felt friendly now, full of possibility. When they reached home, Maya parked her bike inside the apartment and helped her mother wash up. They sat at the table with a simple dinner rice and vegetables, nothing fancy but made with care, and spoke quietly about the day's events. Maya yawned as they finished eating. Rosa helped her wash her face and brush her teeth. Then Maya climbed into bed, tucking the red backpack beside her. Rosa kissed her forehead and whispered, "You are my miracle." Maya smiled sleepily and closed her eyes. That night, Maya dreamed of bright windows shining clean, of kind faces nodding. In the street, of a lonely CEO finding joy. She felt surrounded by warmth and hope, knowing that a single act of kindness had grown into something much larger. And as she slipped into sleep, she carried with her the promise that their story would continue, a living testament to the power of courage, compassion, and the simple faith of a little girl. ChatGPT said, Maya woke early with a smile on her face, sunlight spilling through her bedroom window. She stretched and sat up, feeling excitement rising in her chest. Today was a special day. It was the anniversary of the first morning she had cleaned car windows to help her mother. She remembered how afraid she had been, how cold the air felt, and how tiny her hands seemed against the rough glass. Now, she felt like a different girl, stronger, happier, and full of hope. She slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to wake her mother. In the kitchen, the table was set with 2 plates of warm pancakes and fresh fruit. Rosa stood beside the stove, humming softly as she flipped each pancake. The sweet smell made Maya's stomach rumble. Rosa turned and smiled when she saw Maya. "Happy anniversary, my brave girl," she said, placing a plate in front of her daughter. Maya grinned and hugged her mother tight. "Happy anniversary, Mama," she whispered. They sat down and ate together, talking about their journey. Rosa told Maya how proud she was of her courage and how much joy she had brought into her life. Maya listened, her heart filling with warmth. She realized that although the road had been hard, every step had led them to where they were now. After breakfast, Maya grabbed her blue bicycle from the corner of the living room. Its ribbon fluttered in the morning breeze as she wheeled it outside. Rosa walked beside her, steadying the bike until Maya sat on the seat. She pedaled carefully at first, then with more confidence until she glided smoothly down the sidewalk. She looked back at her mother and waved. Rosa waved back, tears of happiness shining in her eyes. Maya's first stop was the small community garden that Jonathan's foundation had helped to build. Rows of bright flowers and fresh vegetables grew in neat beds. A wooden sign read, "Rivara Community Garden," in cheerful letters. Volunteers tended the plants, watering and weeding with smiles on their faces. Maya and Rosa greeted them warmly, and one of the gardeners handed Maya a small bouquet of daisies. "These are for you, Maya," the gardener said, "for your kindness and strength." Maya accepted the flowers and smelled their sweet scent. She felt proud as she placed them gently in her basket. Rosa hugged her daughter and said, "You have made this garden bloom, just like you have made our lives brighter." Next, Maya and Rosa rode to the small health clinic where Rosa met with the nurse. Inside, the nurse greeted them with a friendly wave. She checked Rosa's pulse, blood pressure, and asked about her pain levels. Rosa told her about the gentle yoga she was teaching to others in the support group. The nurse smiled and said, "You are doing wonderfully. Keep up the good work. Your strength inspires all of us." After the checkup, Maya and Rosa walked down the street to a cozy cafe that Jonathan had arranged as a gathering spot for her reading club. Inside, other children sat in a circle with books in their hands. Maya's face lit up when she saw them. She joined the circle and shared a story she had written about a little girl who washed windows and found a friend in a lonely stranger. The children listened quietly, then clapped when she finished. Maya felt a rush of happiness. She realized that sharing her story could help others feel brave too. When the story time ended, the children ran outside to play. Maya watched them for a moment and then spotted a small empty lot nearby. She ran over and found a stick, using it to draw a big heart in the dirt. She wrote the words, "Hope grows here." Soon the other children gathered around, adding their own drawings of flowers, suns, and smiling faces. The lot felt alive with their joy, and Maya smiled as they all played together. In the late afternoon, Maya and Rosa returned home with tired legs but happy hearts. They sat on the small sofa, the daisies waving gently in a glass jar on the table. Rosa took Maya's hand and said, "Look how far we have come. From those cold mornings at the traffic light to this friends, health, and a bright future." Maya nodded. "It feels like a dream sometimes," she said softly. "But it's real. We made it real together." That evening, there was a knock at the door. Maya opened it to see Jonathan standing there, holding 2 tickets. He smiled and handed them to Rosa. "I would like to invite you both to the city's summer fair," he said. "It's a day of fun rides, games, and treats. I'd be honored if you came." Rosa's eyes widened. "We would love to," she said. "Thank you so much." Maya jumped up and down with excitement. "A summer fair," she exclaimed. "I can get cotton candy and ride the Ferris wheel." Jonathan chuckled at Maya's joy. It settled them. "I'll see you both tomorrow morning." He waved and walked away, leaving the tickets fluttering in Maya's hand. The next day, they made their way to the fairgrounds. Bright flags fluttered in the breeze, and the sound of laughter filled the air. Maya held Rosa's hand tightly as they walked between food stalls and game booths. She bought a pink balloon, a teddy bear from the ring toss game, and a cone of cotton candy that melted on her tongue like sweet clouds. Rosa laughed as she watched Maya's face smeared with sugar. Maya helped Rosa feed ducks in the small pond, tossing breadcrumbs and counting each duck that quacked. At the Ferris wheel, Jonathan greeted them with a warm smile. "Ready for the view?" he asked. Maya nodded eagerly. They climbed into a seat, and the wheel carried them high above the fair. Below, the colorful lights and spinning rides looked like a tiny wonderland. Maya pressed her hands against the glass, eyes shining. Rosa leaned close, her arm around her daughter's shoulders. As the wheel stopped at the top, Jonathan pointed out the city skyline. "Look how far you have risen, Maya," he said softly. Maya smiled and whispered, "Thank you for helping me fly." Jonathan's eyes glowed with pride. He realized that in helping them, he had found his own freedom from loneliness, from grief. He knew he would always remember this moment. Little girls' laughter floating on the summer air. When the ride ended, they joined a group of volunteers handing out free water bottles and fruit to fairgoers. Rosa helped distribute the food, while Maya ran around handing out balloons to children who looked shy. She saw herself in their curious faces, and each balloon felt like a gift of hope. As the sun began to set, they gathered by a small stage where a local band played cheerful music. Maya and Rosa danced together, laughing as they tried simple steps. The music filled their hearts with warmth, and Maya felt the beat of possibility in every note. On their way home that night, Maya looked at Rosa and said, "I will never forget this day." Rosa hugged her daughter and replied, "Nor I, my brave girl. This is just the beginning of many special days." Back at their apartment, they sat by the window, watching the city lights blink on. Maya placed her teddy bear and balloon beside her bed, and Rosa tucked the summer fair ticket into a scrapbook filled with photos from their journey. They held hands and spoke softly about their dreams. Maya spoke of becoming a writer, telling stories that might help others. Rosa dreamed of opening a small yoga class in the community, sharing the gentle exercises that had brought her strength. That night, as Maya drifted to sleep, she thought about how a single day of window washing had changed her life forever. She remembered the first crisp $5 bill in her hand, and how that act of kindness had opened doors she never knew existed. She smiled and closed her eyes, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges and new joys. In the days and months that followed, the foundation Jonathan had started continued to grow. More families found help, more gardens bloomed, and more children like Maya found a chance to be just children again. Maya watched the changes around her and felt a seed of confidence sprout in her own heart. She wrote in her journal, "Kindness changes lives. Even the smallest hand can make a big difference." Years later, when Maya looked back on her story, she could still feel the rough glass of that first windshield, the weight of the bucket in her hand, and the warm glow of every coin that dropped into it. She knew that courage and hope could shine in the darkest places, and that friendship could bloom where least expected. Above all, she knew that a single act of compassion, from a stranger, from a friend, from herself, had the power to light up the world. And so, as Maya and Rosa lay asleep in their small apartment under the soft glow of the city night, their hearts were full of dreams. They slept peacefully, safe in the knowledge that love, once shared, grows forever spreading its light into every corner of life.